Yo, what is up, YouTube? I am making another video. That it was previous to the video beforehand, and if I'll have that also in the link in the description as well. But it was by Mr. Ballin, and he did to do a review on that. But like I said before, everything's gonna be in the link in the description. But I'm not gonna waste too much of your time. Let's just jump right into it. All right, here it is. We're just gonna get this ball rolling, get it started. Well, I mean, like story wise.
In 2015, 29-year-old Johnny Coxey and his wife, 25-year-old Megan Coxey, were living in a low-income section of Spartanburg, South Carolina. They both struggled mightily with drug addiction to the point where it was nearly impossible to get steady work, and so they often found themselves out on the streets begging for money. Their addictions also made it nearly impossible to be a good parent to their only child. And in fact, in December of that year, Child Protective Services stepped in and took their child away from them. And if that wasn't bad enough, almost immediately after their child was taken from them, both Megan and Johnny were arrested and thrown in jail for various offenses that were connected to their drug habits. So Johnny and Megan are at absolute rock bottom at this point as they're sitting in jail, but they were about to get a big break. After they both got out of jail, they were only in jail for a couple of days, Megan was contacted by a local, very successful real estate agent named Todd Colehep. Todd was someone she had met previously when she used to be a waitress at a local diner, and Todd was reaching out to her to somewhat unbelievably offer her and her husband pretty decent paying jobs. Apparently, Todd had recently purchased this massive 95-acre plot of land in the area, and he needed people to come onto the property and help clean it up and clear brush and clean some of the buildings that are on there, because his plan was to further develop this property. And so he had been reaching out to other people in Spartanburg to see if they were interested, and Megan and her husband were two people he had contacted. And so, of course, Megan and Johnny say, yes, we would love to do this job. They were in desperate need of cash, and paying jobs did not come around very often. So on December 19th of that year, Megan spoke to her mother and told her about this job opportunity and where it was and what she'd be doing. And then she and Johnny made their way out to this property. And when they got there, they saw this huge chain link fence wrapped around what seemed like a massive forest. And this forest was the 95-acre plot of land that Todd owned. And so apparently at the center of this forest were a few buildings that Johnny and Megan would be responsible for cleaning. And so they made their way down the fence line until they found the break in the fence, and that led to an access road, and they began driving down it deep into the heart of this forest. 3 days later, Megan's mother tried to get in touch with her, but she couldn't. And when she reached out to Johnny, she couldn't get in touch with him either. And so given the couple's history with drugs, Megan's mother thought the worst, that, maybe they overdosed. And so she panics and she rushes to Megan and Johnny's house. They're not there. And so something in her gut tells her that something is wrong here. It's not common for them to just completely go off the grid. And so she called the police. The police began their investigation by speaking to Todd Colehep, who was the owner of this property, because
I don't know. I forgot how the story went, but I don't know. I just think it's weird how they just straight up just disappeared out of nowhere, which was, I think, a big part of the story. I think.
presumably he was one of the last people to see them before they went missing. But when they spoke to Todd, he said, look, I had limited interaction with them. They were on my property. They came out, they cleaned these two buildings on my property, and then I paid them and they left. And we haven't had any contact since. So, unfortunately, I don't have a clue where they would have gone next. And so at this point, the police decide their best bet is just to wait and see what happens. Although they did not tell Johnny or Megan's families this, the police force did have a running suspicion that, it was possible, if not likely, that the couple had used the money from cleaning up this property to go buy drugs, and then they went on a drug binge, and they would either turn up in a couple of days alive or dead from an overdose. But a couple of days went by, and the couple did not reemerge, and no one had any idea where they were. And then a couple of weeks went by, and then a couple of months went by, And it wasn't long before the case went cold, but it would not stay cold for very long. On August 31st, 2016, so roughly 8 months after the Coxies were reported missing, 2 more residents of Spartanburg went missing as well. They were 30-year-old Kayla Brown and her boyfriend, 32-year-old Charlie Carver. The pair had only been dating for about a month, but they were becoming quite serious, with Charlie already introducing Kayla to his family, a step that Charlie's father said was a very big deal for him. Unlike the Coxies, Kayla and Charlie were not struggling with drug addiction or with financial issues. They were actually pretty well off. Charlie worked full-time operating a printer at a local business, and Kayla made a living by doing odd jobs around town. According to their families, it seemed like the couple was very happy with their lives and the directions they were going. But starting on the evening of August 31st, Kayla and Charlie stopped returning text messages or answering phone calls. Charlie's father was especially close with Charlie, and so this sudden silence was immediately noticed by him, but he kind of ruled it out and thought, you know what, I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation for why he's not texting me back, and so, I'll hear from him over the next couple of days. But over the next couple of days, Charlie continued not to answer text messages or pick up phone calls, same with Kayla, and so after 48 hours of this total silence, Charlie's father finally hopped in his car and drove to his son's house to see if he was there, and he wasn't. And then he drove to Kayla's place, and she wasn't there either. And so none of it made any sense, and so he called the police and he reported them missing. The police started with absolutely no leads, and so what they did to begin their investigation was basically just to interview everybody in Charlie and Kayla's life. Friends, family, acquaintances, employers, co-workers, everyone, but no one had any idea where this couple had gone to. They had not told anyone about some trip they were going on or something they were going to do. It just seemed like they had vanished. And so initially, this investigation really got nowhere. But 2 months after they had been reported missing, the police finally obtained a search warrant that would allow them to look at their respective cell phone records. And when they looked at Kayla's cell phone records, they were able to triangulate roughly where her last known location was, according to pings her cell phone was sending off to nearby cell phone towers. And they discovered her last known location, at least of her cell phone, was inside of the same 95-acre plot of land that the Coxies had been in before they went missing. And so immediately the police put in for a search warrant to go search this 95-acre property, and they sent a team actually out to the property, and they actually set up outside of that big fence and just waited for this.
Yeah, no, I automatically would assume, like, I don't know, someone would be up if it's in the same spot that they were at and they were gone. And as far as where it was pinged at, I would assume that was them, the guy for the property. I feel like he did something.
Search warrant to clear. And at the same time, another group of police officers went to Todd Kohlhepp's house, which was actually in town about 20 minutes away from this property, to talk to him about why in the world Kayla's cell phone would be pinging inside of his property. And so when the police arrive at his front doorstep, Todd is obviously caught off guard by suddenly there being all these police officers. And he does understand very quickly how unbelievably suspicious it looks that now you have potentially 2 couples that have gone onto his property right before they vanished. And so he says to them, look, I know how this looks, but I gotta tell you, I did hire Kayla, and her boyfriend did come along with her. She went onto my property, she did some work for me, she cleaned up some stuff, cleared some brush, and then I paid them, and then they left. That is the last I saw of them. I have no idea why her phone would be on my property. At the same time, the team of police officers were kind of grilling Todd at his house. Right. The other team that was outside of the 95-acre property, they found out their search warrant had been granted. And so they flew through the gate, they got on that access road, and they began bombing into this huge forest. And as they're driving, they pull out their maps they had printed out that showed the rough estimation of where her final location was within this property. And it looked like the last spot was inside of a clearing. And so as they're driving down this access road through all these trees, they see up ahead, there is a clearing, and it looks looks very much like the clearing on their map where this final location is. And when they pull into the clearing, off to the left side of the road are these two green buildings. The left building was like a shed, like something you might keep yard tools in, like lawnmowers and shovels and rakes, that kind of thing. And then right next to it on the right was this metal shipping container, and it had all these metal chains and 5 padlocks keeping it shut. Now, of course,
are the padlocks over there? I mean, yeah, from the outside, it you could say like he had like some kind of, you know, thing for his property and put all his stuff inside of the shipping container. But why 5 locks? I don't know. It just sounds too sketchy.
Of course, the police are thinking, oh my goodness, is Kayla inside one of these buildings? Because this is probably where her last location was. And so right away, the police went inside of the left building, the shack, because it was easier to get into. There weren't padlocks all over it. And when they got inside, there really was nothing of note. Kayla was not in there. Charlie was not in there. There was no cell phone in there. It was just gardening tools. And so they went over to the right building, the shipping container, and they got out their metal cutting saws and their bolt cutters, and they began cutting into all of these locks and chains. And when they finally got that door open, they were absolutely astounded at what they saw inside.
Yes. Pull that one first. All right, let them get ready. Ready? Come on. Down. Just jammed in here. Give me that crowbar back.
Where's that? Get that big crowbar.
I need Watch out. Y'all move. I got it. Watch out.
Joey.
Sheriff's officer.
Sheriff's officer.
What?
Grab that.
Back up there about this.
Are you okay?
Grab what? Go.
Do you have any weapons? Cut me through, okay?
What's your name? What's your name, man?
Lauren.
Okay. Alright. Just a girl. Just a girl. How are you, honey? This is bolt cutters. This is our best. He's a paramedic.
I think that, yep, not even just think. I know that was a clip that was shown on that previous video that I did. And I will put the link in that description. And also, I cannot imagine how she would be feeling right now, especially in a dark place like that, chained up. And I forgot what happened to the boyfriend. What happened to the boyfriend? Like, that's one thing I never I mean, like, I know that people that are serial killers or people that are killers are wired different, and their brain do not understand. It kind of blocks off that moral from right and wrong, but it's like, I can.
Okay. Just hang loose for me. Anybody got I need a handcuff key.
The police had just discovered Kayla. She was in rough shape, and she had a metal chain wrapped around her neck that was anchored to the wall, and she was handcuffed, but she was alive. And after they cut her free and got her out of the shipping container, she told them what happened. She said back on August 31st, 2016, so this was the same day that Charlie's father had realized his son was not responding to his text messages, and when he was calling Kayla, she wasn't answering either. So on that day, Kayla says she was contacted by a friend of hers, Todd Colehep, and he told her that he was still looking for people to come out and help clean up the property because
Yeah. Yeah, it was a crazy story. That's the story that I figured that's where it came from. And it won't bring those people back. And it's really sad to see that the girl was just okay with her reality, because like what can you do? What can you do in that situation? But she made it out okay. That's pretty much the only thing really I can say about that. I'm glad she made it back. She made it out okay, and hopefully with her family and everything. is okay and well. And I know it was a while ago, and it's crazy just to hear about a story like that. But that was the story from Mr. Ballen. I'm definitely going to put his channel in the description because this man is amazing at the content that he does. He makes the story as well. Like, he's a really good storyteller. You guys should definitely check him out. I think that should be it for that's pretty much it for the video. If you made it here at this time, I appreciate it. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you even taking a look at the video, and I will be definitely making some more. And like I said in my previous video, I'm definitely trying to uniform the hours and times of when I'm going to be putting my videos up. So it might be it might be in the next video when I give out the schedule of how I'm going to do this. So I will be seeing you guys in the next video, and peace out, y'all.